Hello and welcome to a special bonus episode of the Paul Ryder tapes, featuring an interview with Paul's Los Angeles collaborator, British musician Matt Cheadle.
I've never really used Zoom much, so I don't know how it works.
It looks good behind you. You did a good set design.
There you go.
There we go. Kat, come and say hi. You got a mention in the show the other night. Did you see it?
Didn't, but I'm in a turban right now with my hair washed. So
well, just give us a tiny peep. Come on.
Okay, is he lit?
Yeah, he looks great.
All right.
Okay, ciao. Have
See you
fun.
later.
Thank you, Kat. Okay, can you tell me a little bit about you and your musical credentials and where you come from and who you've played with?
So I'm originally from London, and I've been out here in LA for 20 years now. I am a guitar player, but I'm also a singer, and I also have enough, bass and keys and other things to get by in the studio. So I play a bunch of different stuff. And I, over the years, some of the people I play with, I was in Paul Young's band in the UK for late 90s to the early 2000s, so 4 or 5 years I played with him. I toured a couple of times with Natalie Imbruglia down in Australia. In fact, I think it was just the once, but it was quite a long trip, so
feels like twice.
Felt like twice. And no, it didn't. No, and certainly not in a bad way. It was we had a great time. I mean, the band was brilliant. We had so much fun. We wore out our livers, that's for sure. On that trip. But, maybe that's what I'm getting at. It felt like a lifetime just because there was a lot of drinking going on. But we had a great time, and she was brilliant. So, and I worked with other people, all sorts of different people, from Lisa Stansfield to Engelbert Humperdinck. With Then Jericho, I worked with I worked with Steve Levine, the producer, for quite a while. In the late 90s, I was his guitar player for a while. So I played on records by Louise, Nerding, by the Honeys, a bunch of
You've been around a bit.
Yeah, I've done a bit, and I do my own stuff too. I've got my own. I like to write my own stuff. Sort of, some of it is indie rock kind of things, and other stuff is sort of more Americana, and some of it is just more straight ahead rock pop. So just lots of different stuff.
Okay. Do you want to start off maybe by talking about when you very first met him? Do you remember the time when you first met him?
I think I was looking at the files and stuff. They were 2009, so
oh wow,
I'm guessing that's when we met you.
We came the end of 2008, so we must have. Yeah, we met you the Easter after we came.
Did you come to your house?
Oh, did you come to the house in Topanga?
Yeah. Which one it was? Not the big yellow one. The one you had before.
Oh wow, that was the first 6 months that we were here.
Yeah, I think it was really early on, and it was really cool for me because obviously, the Mondays are, if you grew up in that period in England, they were a big deal. So, and so I was excited and sort of, a little nervous, I suppose, and and you guys were lovely. He was super cool, and it was really nice. And we made some arrangements for him to come round to here, and we started writing. We did, basically, it was really just 2 songs. I know it's sort of 3, but unofficially 3, officially 2. The first one we did was Scandalized, and to this day it still doesn't have any melody in the verse. It's just an instrumental verse and then the chorus, and there's middle 8 bits and all kinds of other stuff. It's been a while since I've heard that song, actually, but the idea was, and I'm sure you remember, was that he had his plan to ask Ian Brown, and I think was the main character, if he wanted to write and sing a verse. And I'm assuming he left it blank so that whoever came in to do it have a vested interest in the song and would have a piece of the song, which would make it more attractive rather than just, hey, do you want to sing on this thing that I've written? Sadly, of course, it never happened. And I think a few other names were in the mix as well, but do
you remember what who the other names were?
No. It might have been Ruetta. It might have been her.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's a completely different thing from Ian, obviously, but
well, we might still be able to get some vocals on it. Who knows? We're going to play the song in its current form, probably at the end of this show, actually.
Well, we did Scandalize, and then we did Real World, which we started and finished. Really pleased with that song. I was pleased with the way it came out. I love it was really interesting writing with Paul because he did things completely differently than I would have done, and it was always nice. I remember years ago I used to write songs with a fella called Neville Henry from the Blow Monkeys. Do you remember the Blow Monkeys?
Yeah, I do.
And he was he's a sax player, and he came from a sort of dance background too. Not dancing background, a electronic music dance background. And so he had a completely different take on how to write songs. You start with a groove and build it up, and then there were little hooks that you throw in. Whereas me, as a sort of singing guitar player, would sort of do it in more traditional style, sing the guitar and strum the chords and do it that way. So Paul brought a different element into it. There was like, I've got this idea, and we'd set up a groove, and then he'd throw down a little bass line, and then I'd sort of try and figure out what chords were there. And then he had some rough ideas for melodies and stuff. So Real World sort of became, I can't remember whether he came along with the actual finished melody and lyrics and stuff, or whether we worked on it ourselves, because it's a long time ago now. Funnily enough, it was November the 4th was the first day we started that, which is almost to the day.
Yeah, it's November the 6th. Yeah.
In 2009. So the first thing, there's a thing on Logic that says created when the file was first created, and it says 11/4/2009. So that's kind of serendipitous in itself. And we just, there's a bit in it that sounds like the Isley Brothers because he was big into that. So we wanted a lot of sort of old school R&B stuff and some soul, some dance elements, and a few rock things as well. And so we managed to put all that in, and then I came up with this sort of bridge hook where I sang falsetto like it was going to be female singing stuff, which weaved in and out over the top, and the whole thing came together really nicely, and it was a really cool song, and I really liked it, and I was actually really proud of that, and I'm really glad that I got to do that with Paul. I thought that was wicked. So that was really nice.
Didn't Kat do backing vocals on that song?
Well, there are very high voices on there, and I'm singing some of them. There's a possibility I could look on the file, that's on the session, and have a look. There's a possibility that she's doing that too. Yeah,
I think she did. I said that she did.
Right. Okay. Well, then let's go with that.
No, I'm pretty sure she did. I mean, I don't think I would have just invented that in my head.
Right. Yeah.
She didn't sing live with you, but I remember standing next to her when you were performing that song and saying to her, "This is really good."
Okay, let's have a listen to the song that he's talking about. This is called Real World.
Getting on the midnight train to see
So Matt played that song with Paul on a mini US tour that they did supporting Chris France and Tina Weymouth's Tom Tom Club in 2010. They were joined on stage by his French collaborator Eddie Gronfier on keyboards and programming, and Neo Noise from Mexican Smiths tribute band Elos Smiths on drums.
Yeah, we did 2 gigs. So we did one in San Francisco. So we were opening up for the Tom Tom Club. So Chris and Tina, who had produced the Mondays, right?
Yeah.
I think back in the day. So they were very close friends. We drove all the way up to San Francisco on I want to say a Friday morning for our gig. And then came back after the gig. So 800 mile round trip, basically. Yeah, because it's 370 miles, whatever. I don't know. So call it 750 mile round trip with a gig in the middle of it. We got home at like 5 o'clock in the morning. That was the first gig, and it was great. It was I forget what the venue was, but it was somewhere downtown, very cool place, and it was sold out because obviously Tom Tom Club had a big following, and it was we were obviously knackered, having driven all day to get there, but it was great. And then we hung around, we watched a bit of their set, had a beer or two, and then drove back. And then I think we played in LA on I want to say the Sunday night, I think it was.
Oh,
so we got back very early Saturday morning, and then Sunday I think we played. It was in Echo Park.
I remember that. Yeah. Tell me about the lineup of the band at that point.
So there was Neo on drums. It was interesting actually because so Paul was singing, not playing bass, just singing. I was playing guitar and singing backgrounds, what there was of them. So 2 Englishmen. We had a Frenchman, Eddie, playing keyboards, and I think he was either playing bass lines with the left hand or it was somehow sequenced in. Maybe they were backing tracks. He would know. I'm assuming you've probably spoken to him, so he would know. And then Neo, who was Mexican or American Mexican, on drums. So it was kind of like a multi-international kind of thing, which was really cool in itself.
Yeah. So why did you not continue doing stuff? Like, how come it all kind of...
Well, I remember after the Echo Park gig, we were all kind of like, yeah, this is really good, because we had a warm-up a couple of days before, and we were headlining that night. And it sounded really good, felt really good. I remember you and Kat and everyone was saying, God, that was really, really good. And we were all like, yeah, let's do more. Don't know.
Yeah.
I think, as you know, I guess it was reasons down to Paul, whether it was just we didn't quite get it together. We didn't really do any more writing after that. We might have tried a few things. I don't know. Perhaps things change in his world. I don't really know. But I mean, had he said, do you want to do some more? Let's do some more. We'd have all said absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
So it must be his decision or his circumstances that prevented it. I actually don't know, Ange. I don't know what happened, but yeah, we just did those 2 shows, and that was kind of it. It's a real shame because it felt like it had legs. It really did. It felt like it was something that could work.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about the writing do you remember writing Scandalized? Do you remember the process of that?
Well, again, I think as I touched on before, Paul would show up and he said, I haven't played bass for however many years it was, but I had a bass here. So I put it in his hands, and he was like, oh, blimey. So I don't know how this works anymore, but it was great. He, I think, basically he had these kind of rough ideas, and it was more like he wanted music that had some electronic dance elements to it, some old school soul, funk, R&B, of which things like the Isleys, maybe even Parliament and Funkadelic and stuff like that, which was all good in my eyes. With a little bit of pop and rock. And then the way that Paul vocalized was, it wasn't over melodic, it was rhythmic. And he had this really kind of deadpan, very cool delivery. and in fact, if you listen closely on some of the vocal takes, you can hear his smoky breathing in and out. And it's actually really atmospheric. It's actually really, really cool. And so he would come and we would just build a track, I think. And then we'd say, right, we now need a chorus, or we need a bridge, or we need something else to flesh it out. So I think at that point he would say, well, what do you think? And I would say, well, how about if we go here, you know, and I was doing it on guitar at the time just because that's my main instrument. But then we went back and did stuff on Fender Rhodes and organ and things. The drums were, none of it was live. We recorded, we were probably starting with loops, and then I would maybe program some drums to fit in with that. So that gave it that sort of electronic, you know, dance feel, I suppose. But also because some of these loops are, you know, funky old loops from the 70s and whatever, I suppose that gave it that vibe too. You know, Paul would turn up with his trailer full of Red Bull and you know, and his cigarettes. So we'd work for half an hour and he'd go out and he'd have a fag and he'd have a couple of Red Bulls and I would be tweaking away on stuff and tidying up things, and he'd come back in and we'd just do the next bit. I don't have vivid memories of how the tracks really went together, but it's just that we used to build it up, and then, you know, he went away and I'd tidy things up and I'd come up with some ideas, and then he'd come back next week and I'd say, what do you think of this? And he'd go, yeah, that's really good, or yeah, that's not quite right, or how about we take that and tweak it? And I think that was pretty much the way both songs went. They started with his ideas and his vision of what he wanted it to sound like. You know, it was like he had a vibe, new music that he wanted to do, and we just sort of created it that way. And like I said, I had worked like that a few times before, but it's very different from how I would do it, and I really enjoyed that because, you know, it's new and it's fresh and it's interesting, and it means he takes you out of your normal box, so you're not doing the same old stuff that you normally do, or the same process, and it makes it more interesting. And also just getting to know Paul, you know, who was obviously, you know, I knew of him, and, you know, is something of a legend. So I'm sat here next to him and we're just chatting away, getting to know each other, and it was all really good. It was really nice. So that was, you know.
Oh, good. For somebody like Paul moving to LA when he's no longer in the Mondays, how difficult do you think it is for somebody like Paul to start again in a new city where he doesn't have any connections?
Well, if you have no connections, yeah, it would be hard for anyone, I suppose. I mean, he has a name, but whether or not you know, the name of the band obviously would mean something. I mean, I don't know how big they were out here.
They're well known underground here, but they're not really well known enough for it to have been real currency for him.
Yeah, and I think with Americans particularly, they do like to be impressed. So if they don't know who you are, or it's not a name that, or, you know, a band or whatever, then it would be difficult. Yeah.
Did you find him shy? Did you find him socially awkward at all, or not?
Not when it was just me and him. No. He might have, I don't remember him being shy. No, but I can understand if he had been, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when again, because, you know, he was not drinking, and in an environment where you're surrounded by lots of people who are, you know, drinking, sometimes it's hard to sort of, you know, break out and get involved, I suppose. But I know that Dolph always got on really well with him too. They had good chats and stuff. So, and Kat too, in fact, you know, she really warmed to him as well. So he was always quite quietly spoken though, wasn't he? So you see, I suppose it would have been easy to mistake that for shyness, but I didn't really feel that that was the case. No.
How did you feel when you found out he died?
I was really sad. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't seen him for a long time, but yeah, I mean, it was really sad. Yeah, very sad.
Yeah. But you got your two songs, like you got two little children together.
Well, no, yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I'm immensely proud of the fact that I got the opportunity to work with him, and that what we did was really good. So yeah, that was nice. Yeah.
And he was a massive fan of you and your work as well. Like, he loved working. Yeah, he always spoke really, really highly of you. Yeah, and Kat. Shall I stop recording now? I've got what I need from you.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry. I mean, I hope I haven't been completely useless.
No, it's great. Like, you've talked about them, unless there's anything you think I've forgotten. You've talked about the writing of Scandalized, the writing of Real World, going on that little tour, being with Neo and Eddie, meeting him socially. You've talked about your history and your own background. Is there anything else that I've missed?
I don't think so. I don't think so. No.
Do you remember any particular events when you were on the road, when you were traveling that day? Any funny stories? Any
You know,
moments
it was.
you remember?
I don't really. Only that it was just a complete marathon. I mean, it was such a long journey. I think we left Woodland Hills at sort of 11 o'clock in the morning, and then got back here because I think Kat dropped me off, and then he had this. I don't know whether he's rented it or whether it was yours. Great big Escalade thing or whatever. It's rammed to the brim with gear, and there's only 4 of us in there, but yeah, 4 of us. But it was full of equipment. But we didn't get back till sort of 5 o'clock in the morning because you forget it's such a long way.
Who did the drive?
So, yeah, I mean, I think by the journey home was certainly uneventful because we were all just trying to stay awake. You know, Paul's knocking back the Red Bulls and steering the ship. He did most of the driving, to be fair to him, which was very decent. We all took turns in the end, and I think I did one of the final legs as we came out of Ventura.
Yeah.
I think I drove us back to Hollywood, back to here, to the flat, to the apartment here. But it was either the middle of the night or a very early morning. The sun might even have been just peeking through again by the time we got back. So it was a hell of a long day. So that's what I remember.
Just how tiring it was.
Like
Did
driving to the phone, basically.
Did he talk much about his Mondays days? Did he?
Not a great deal. I don't know. I think because I think it wasn't a happy ending from what I remember, and particularly his relationship with his brother.
Yeah.
So I don't think he was particularly keen to talk about it. So I don't remember pushing him to talk about it, just because I don't think he was that comfortable.
How do you think he handled the kind of so when he was with the Mondays, there'd be a massive crew, there'd be roadies, there'd be drivers, tour buses, and he went from that to hiring a car and driving the band with the gear in the back for all. How do you think he handled that?
I think he handled it really well. I mean, he just sort of rolled his sleeves up and got on with it. I mean, he was a working class lad from Manchester. I don't suppose he probably wouldn't have forgiven himself if he'd have got all on his high horse about it. He'd have probably thought that was a bit poncy. So I think he just got on with it, really, like we all did. Yeah. He just thought, I mean, obviously it's been probably a few decades since he had to do it back in the 80s.
Do you remember whether he was nervous before the shows?
I think he was, yeah. I think he was nervous. I think so, but I don't know. I mean, but I thought he handled it really well. I mean, obviously, he wasn't a front man before, but I remember, he stood well, a couple of hands on the mic, and he leaned into it, and he got stuck in, and I thought it was rather cool. It was good because he could have just been sort of, gazing at his feet and getting a bit shy and a bit nervous, but I think he really,
that impression you just did was spot on.
Well, there's a picture of it. I forget where I saw it. I think I nicked it off Facebook, maybe, or it turned up on my memories of. It might have been a picture that you took, or maybe Kat took, of the Echo Park gig where I'm on stage right, or is that stage left? I never know which way around it is. And he's in the middle, and he's got one hand on here, one hand on here, and. Because I know what it's like if you're used to playing an instrument on stage, when you've just got the mic stand, you don't know what to do with your hands, so you just sort of hang on to dear life and you lean into it. And I thought he was great. I mean, and it's because it wasn't, we weren't in excess. He doesn't have to perform like Michael Hutchins or like Tom Jones or anything. This is a sort of, an indie dance thing. So it's all very much, it's downplay the stage craft, as it were. And he drew people in with his presence more than anything. So but I think he was nervous, but obviously not debilitatingly so, because he knocked it out of the park from what I remember. Again, it's all a long time ago. So
what were Chris and Tina like? Did you meet them?
I did briefly. They were very sweet, very supportive, really helpful. We sound checked, and they came out and gave it all the thumbs up, and I don't remember there being any issues at all. Their crew also would have helped us out. We would have used their sound man, and everyone was really sweet. I think they had a lot of respect for Paul because of his relationship with Chris and Tina. So no one was going to mess us about. So I just remember. I mean, it was all great. The only apart from the hours put in the drive, other than that, it was great. You know? So yeah.
That's all we have time for you this week. We're playing out with the other song that Matt did with Paul, Scandalize. Join us next week for another special bonus edition featuring the mighty, the amazing, really lovely Gaz Whelan, who's the Mondays drummer, of course, and he's absolutely full of stories. Please join our Patrons Club by going to patreon.com/The Paul Ryder Tapes. Sign up, even if you can't afford to sponsor the show, we'd love to have you. Join in the chat on our socials and check out the merch in our shop by going to paulryder.tv. Have a fantastic new year, everyone, and thank you so much for being alongside us on this journey. Big love and thanks to Matt Cheadle and, of course, to the man himself, the late, great Paul Anthony Ryder. Lots of love to you all and see you next week. Bye.
Scandalized. Couldn't believe my eyes. I should have realized it's computerized. There's no compromise.